on what? The highlights, yeah. And we highlighted what y was equal to in this first one. So y equals, and we put it in for y. And the other one, what did we have equal? We had an x equals. So before we substitute, we have to know what either y is equal to or what x is equal to. Do we have that here where we have a y equals or an x equals? No. So that's our first step, and that's what's different today compared to what we did yesterday, is that we have to get that first step by itself. So we need to pick an x or a y to solve for. And the kind of the goal is eventually when we solve for x or for y, eventually we'll have to divide. If you take a look back at what we did back here, when I solved for y, whoa, bro, do you need a Kleenex?
Okay.
Okay. All right, so if I get y by itself, I eventually had to divide everything by 4. So we want to think, what's a coefficient that's easy to divide by? So in our first equation here, if I got x by itself, I would have to divide everything by 2. Can I do 4 divided by 2? Can I do 14 divided by 2? So that would be easy. What about if I wanted to get y by itself? Can I do 2 divided by 4? Get a fraction. What about 14 divided by 4? Not so much. That makes it more complicated. Okay, what about on the bottom? Can I divide everything by 6? I could do 66 divided by 6. Is 15 divided by 6, would that be easy? Nope. What about if I divide everything by 15? Nope. So in this one, really our only option for an easiest problem would be to solve for x, in which equation, the top one or the bottom one? And the top one. So in this first one, our goal is to get an x equals. I'm going to write out that equation, negative 2x minus 4y equals 14. And our goal is to get x by itself, get an x equals equation. So I want to get x all alone. This is different than when we graph. When we graph, we always want y by itself. This time we want x by itself. So to get x by itself, are we going to undo the negative 2 or undo the minus 4y first? If I'm getting x by itself, do I start with that best friend, negative 2? Yeah, I get rid of that negative 4y, that part that's not connected. So how do I undo a minus 4y? Good, add 4y. If we do it to one side, do it to the other side. All right, that gets rid of this 4y. So we're left with just negative 2x equals, can I combine 14 and 4y to make 18y? Why not? Good, they're not like terms. This 14 isn't representing a y. So I'm just going to write it out. I like that variable to always come first. That's proper. So we're going to say 4y plus 14. And then we're going to have to still get that x by itself. So how am I going to undo that multiplying by negative 2? Divide. And we can use that fraction symbol, or we can do that division symbol. Divide by negative 2. And when we divide everything by that negative 2. So we'll get x equals 4 divided by negative 2. Negative 2y. And 14 divided by negative 2. Negative 7. So we could write it as a plus negative 7, or we could write it as minus 7, either one. I'm going to go with that plus negative 7. Just helps me think about things a little bit more clearly if they're all together. All right, I'm going to highlight that in one color, that I did an x equals. And with x equals, I got negative 2y plus negative 7. Now, instead of x equals, what's our next variable we're going to find? A y equals. So we have to switch up which variable we're using. For the y equals, I have to switch the equation, because if I just work with the same equation, that's not doing a system. So for this first one, I use the top equation. So now for this one, I'm going to use the bottom equation. I'm just going to write it out first. 6x minus 15y equals 66. But what did I already know? What did we already solve for? X or y? X. So I'm going to replace that x with that amount that I already have. So I'm going to say 6, and then parentheses, negative 2y plus negative 7. Minus 15y equals 66. And now that we have just y's, we can solve that equation to get a y equals. And we're actually going to get a number this time. So to get y all alone, what's my first step going to be? Am I going to undo something, get rid of something, combine something? How am I going to get y by itself over here? Yeah, we want to combine these y's eventually, so we have to get rid of the 6 first, this parentheses. So we're going to multiply. Good. So we're going to distribute. Pew! Pew! I'm not going to take time today to write out that multiplication. If it's something you need, take that moment. Okay, I'm going to just use my calculator here. 6 times negative 2, negative 12, so we'll get negative 12y, plus, and then 6 times negative 7, we get negative 42. Should I do 6 times negative 15? No, why not? Good, it's not in the parentheses, so we keep that a minus 15y equals 66. Okay, now what's our next step to get y by itself? Right now there's 3 parts. I want to get to a 2-step equation, so I want to make it only 2 parts. What can I combine to make it 2 parts? Good, put the y's together. So I'm just going to lightly circle. I have negative 12y, negative 15y. So negative 12 minus 15. Hi. And we get negative 27. So we're going to write negative 27y. Sounds good, thank you. Plus negative 42 equals 66. Now that we have 2 parts, we can go through and solve that equation. If you want to work ahead at this point, go for it. Get y by itself. What do we undo next? The negative 27 or the negative 42? Yeah, the negative 42. How do we undo adding negative 42?
Plus 42.
Good, plus 42 both sides. Nice job, Andrew. Negative 27y, because this undoes it. We don't have to do that part. The math we do need to do is this side, the 66 plus 42. Okay. Ian, what'd you get for 66 plus 42? 108. Beautiful. All right, and then how are we going to undo that negative 27? Should we add, subtract, multiply, or divide? Why divide and not add? Sometimes when I see a negative, I want to get rid of a negative by adding. This time we don't. Why not? Good. When it's touching the y, that means multiply. And how do we undo multiply? Divide. So divide both sides by negative 27. Don't know what that is. 108 divided by negative 27. And we get negative 4. Alright, so that's my y equals. I'm going to use that second color that I had. Y equals negative 4. I've been going slow, man. You got it. Alright, is that my final answer? Am I done? Why not? Yeah, and in a solution we need both what? X and y. We know y, so now I need to do x. If you have space, you could fit it in a little bit off to the side here. If you're running out of space, just right below. Okay, now I need to figure out what x is equal to. So I'm going to go back to what I had x equal to already. I said x was equal to negative 2y plus negative 7. So I'm going to say x equals, I'm going to just write that again, negative 2y plus negative 7. Running a little out of space. I'm going to zoom in there. I think I wrote yours down. All right, so what is our y? What are we going to put in for that y there? Negative 4. Good. So it's negative 2 times negative 4 plus negative 7. Oh my gosh, all the negatives. Really ran out of space there. All right, so to do that, are we going to start, if we did by hand, would we multiply or add first? Multiply. So negative 2 times negative 4. Positive 8 plus negative 7 would be positive 1. Okay, if you just typed in that whole thing, negative 2 parenthesis negative 4 plus negative 7, we would get positive 1. All right, so for our last step here, 2 more steps, and then we're done. Last official step that we're going to do is write out our solution. Is it going to be negative 4, 1, or 1, negative 4? Why does 1 come first? Good, it's x, and in an ordered pair, what always comes first? X. All right, so write that down. And then we're going to do one more step here. We're going to check our answer, just for us to understand why we did what we did. 1, negative 4 seems like a really easy answer that we could graph. Could we plot that point, 1, negative 4? Yeah. But remember, if we were going to graph it, we would have had to start at a weird y-intercept. It would have been a fraction. And that's not ever good. That makes it hard. All right, I'm going to cover this up for a second. We're going to go back to the original problem. In the original problem, it said negative 2x minus 4y has to equal 14. So let's check our work. Negative 2 times what was our x that we found in our answer? 1. Minus 4 times what's our y? Negative 4. And do we get 14 as our answer? Yep. All right, let's check with our next one. 6 times what's our x? 1. Minus 15 times what's our y? -4. And do we get 66 as the answer? Yep. So it worked for both, which means we're right. That's a good way for you to check your work. All right, here's the deal. Listen carefully. You guys ready to listen? Everyone listening?